Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Chai Tea Tai Chi web show. I'm Dane Dormio, and I'm really pleased, as always, to be interviewing a very exciting guest tonight. Uh, Someone with a unique and ironic name for a martial artist. And I really want to know how you came up with the name Ninja. Um, so I'll get into this and some other questions, but I'm uh, happy to be sharing this conversation with you tonight with Ninja. Is it? Do you say Win? How do you say
Win, yeah,
Win?
win.
Okay, with Ninja Win, owner of the Xtreme Ninja Martial Arts Center in Boston, and also author of the book Step on the Mat about life lessons from the martial arts. So thank you for being here tonight, Ninja. It's great to see you. How's everything?
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying this journey right now, so I do appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah. Um, I I'm curious to hear your origin story. How did this whole martial arts thing get started for you?
So, as the year I was born, so at that time there was Vietnam War was happening. So my parent basically they have 10 kids in the family, and my older brother they have to come to U.S. before that. And at that time, of course, I didn't know where they going to U.S. or not. I just knowing that wake up in the morning, my brother wasn't there. So what happened was, as a young child, I ask questions. I'd be like, "What happened? Where's my brother go?" And my parent didn't want to be like the one who shared the story, like where they go. So because of that time, the only way to keep myself busy was martial arts, and either martial art or soccer or volleyball. And as a young kid, volleyball and soccer is not like a sport that we play all the time. So my parent put me into a place that so I can get more disciplines and more focus. And basically that's how I start my martial art years. And so that was 19 my brother came to United States was 1974, 75. So at that time.
So it was something that your parents thought would be good for you, and you ended up liking it.
Yeah, at that time was the growing up was like when your parent tell you do something, that's what you got to do. It's there's no question asked. And so I was growing up in that environment. So it's like um, there's a bunch of people you hang out, you train with. But at that time was like, okay, was the martial art for your health. It wasn't about like learn to be a good fighter or being a business person. It's more like keep you busy and focus on your health. That was about that.
So what's kept you in the game all these years? What led to taking this path as a career?
So when I came here in 1980, I was cross path on. We of course we was a refugee. So my dad get out of jail. He brought us to United States. But at that time we was end up in the first place we ever been was Malaysia. And when we were staying in the Malaysia in the refugee camp, it was more like there's people was there. Everybody either learn to be in the same community, go to church, and then they do activity together, stretch out, do stuff like that. That's the while you wait to come to US. But at that time, we have another chance. We basically they take us, they move us to another place called Philippine Purobatan, Philippine, the camp in 1978. It's like so we were staying at the camp, and I was basically every day I was waking up in the morning and get in line to get food for my parents. So basically, as a young kid, I was just like kind of growing up punching, kicking, and then it just happened the chef was coming out and he saw us, and then basically like he started like a small group to do just basically kicking and punching. That was it. And through that time I was basically the only thing that kept me was kind of busy and connected to hang out. even though we don't speak the same language, you know. And then I came to United States 1980, and at that time, same thing was that martial art was keep me in check. You can say that because what happened was I went through school, I didn't know any language, you know, basically. And then what I was trying to do is just get to know the people. But every single day when I walk home, I saw there's this a martial art gym. So I went check out at that time in the 80s. It's like you've been training martial arts, so you know it's like most of the style they don't accept anybody except their own style. So, for example, if Shotokan, they like the Shotokan people. They don't want the Shotokan go competing kung fu or anything like that. So it's kind of like, and then at that time, when you learn Shotokan, you have to learn the language, the Japanese, because how they punch, how they kick in Japanese. And at that time, I check out that school, and then I check out another school, Taekwondo school, and Taekwondo school, same thing as that. They speak Korean, and the only way I'm like, you know, I'm coming to United States. I'm already struggle enough to learn the language, and here go, I like the sport, but there's no connection. So what happened was there's another school that near my house. It was a karate school, and everybody was speaking English, and I was like intrigued by that because, for me, I want to be able to connect it in when I go to school. So that's how I was learning the language, and through that, because of the language helping me, I continue from that point to continue training, learning, and even now I'm doing like jujitsu, and you know, and I love the martial arts. Keep me in check a little bit.
So it sounds like because it was a part of what you did growing up as you were migrating and integrating into new communities, you found that to be you found martial arts as to be a way to connect with people
Yes, sir.
across language and cultural barriers.
Yeah, and you know the big thing for me I learned from is that it's basically like every single day the only place that I can learn to connect, because I already know how to do the punch in my language, and then when I hear them speaking in the American language and I put two and two together, so that's how it helped me learn the language a lot. And then in that time, the 1980 81 to all the way, it's like, you know, in Boston Chinatown they have everywhere kung fu theater, you know, and even on TV, and Bruce Lee was like everywhere. And you know, so it's like for me, I love that. It's like everywhere, everybody's talking about Bruce Lee, you know. And then the other parts growing up is it the other side was um, the Godfather, the Untouchable. You know, it's like the too violent that you know I learned from, and you know, it's like, and I love the sport just in general, and it's keep me in check a little bit on that.
So one thing that I'm curious about is the role of tradition in martial arts, and specifically how the martial arts that you teach are different than the martial arts that you learned, or how are you teaching it differently?
So, for example, when I was learning back then, it was like either there's no crying martial arts. There is no, you know, giving up. There's if a teacher tell you to push up, you gotta learn how to push up, even though you have to cry, you know, and that's the way it is. And growing up, I didn't never seen like the experience of like, well, if there's a kid that have a special needed or ADD kid, or you know, or disability, you know. And for me, I learned a little bit different because for me, I got accepted into the school, right? And when I go to school, even though my language wasn't great, but they look at how much effort I put in, and then that's how I got in the grade in English. So I learned from is that there's always a level of each student, depend on if the student that have come every single day, how their attitude, and depend on the student that come 2 days a week, how their attitude. So you have to kind of grade from that point. And then the other part too is that I can't teach a student because I feel like discipline now is a little bit difficult because you have to kind of empower the kid to learn. because if you discipline them, they feel like that you're shutting them down. So my teaching a little bit different, because I always feel like in my life, I always believe that I'm learning from, there's a lessons, there's a rule, and then there's a goal of it. So the way I teach is, I basically same thing as I give the student of the lessons, and then I'll give them what the rule is, and then I give them what the goal is. For some little kid, they don't understand what goal is, so I give them the skill. I tell them, okay, today we learn on the skill. For example, if we was doing sparring, we work on speed, that will be a goal. We would work on control, that will be a goal. So something like that for them to kind of look for. And then I would never tell them what's right and wrong, because still English is still my second language, so I can't tell the kid it's wrong, because I speak, for them is different, you know, and there's some word that I can't even pronounce it. I can't tell them is wrong because they're judging them. So for me, I have to look at where I am, and I have to be able to inspire them, to empower them to see in a different way. And for a student, for example, if a student coming in, and if they have like, if I put a section and say, well, if the kid have disability, right? I don't look at that. I look at them as human. I look at them at, I need to communicate with them as a martial artist, because as a martial artist, if I can throw a punch and a kick into a sparring, that means I can work on communication, find way to connect with the persons. And and a kick and a punch, it's depend on a kid, how much they put in effort in each day, and how much you have to inspire them. And that's the way how I teach the style over here.
So it sounds like you're saying the way that you learned when you were a kid, it was more tough and less forgiving, whereas the way that you teach today has to be more sensitive and take individual differences into account, and it's more about empowering all students than it is about competing and correcting.
Right. Because for example, I have a student. For example, they say this. There's like, oh, I can't do it, right? And let's say we was doing a front row, and some of them knew they have, some of them they never experienced of falling before, or they have issue with like trust. So sometimes you don't connect, as a teacher, you don't connect with them, they can't trust you. So when they don't trust you, they can't really do in that technique. But for example, I talk to a kid, for example, I always say to them, I said, oh, you can't do front row. How about if I give you $20? Would you be able to do a front row? And the kid was like, oh yeah, I can do it, no problem. Because it's like, for them, they have to be able to see the value of it, why they doing it, you know. And for me as a teacher, I have to find way to see, for them to connect into fun first, get them excited, and then they'll start to do it. Because it's like, um, as you know, it's like for adult, we come in, same thing as like, we come in, we're like, oh my god, it's gonna, I can't do front row because it's stupid, and and somebody looking at me. But for kid, you have to kind of basically, when you teach, you have to make sure everybody as a family. That means that you have to be able to know each other's name. We have to be able to make sure laugh together and have fun, because end of the day, training's supposed to be fun you know
Yeah, I like that you mentioned the idea of being like a family, because I actually wanted to ask about that too, about martial arts as a family affair, because I see that at your gym you have children's classes and adults classes, and it's a sort of integrated multi-generational environment. And so I'm curious about what, because kids kids and adults are sort of seeking different things from martial arts, um and so I'm curious about what do you find are how do you design a program that that will benefit kids and adults that they'll both want to participate in, and what are some of the benefits from families doing martial arts together that you've seen?
So we usually do is, like I said, we have the martial art, and then we have what we call imitation of martial arts. So what I mean imitation is that we do like a fitness kickboxing. Okay. The fitness kickboxing, the class is basically the student doesn't have to come in, bow in, and have like traditional kind of disciplines. They can wear like regular clothes, sweatpants and stuff like that. And in the martial arts section, we have a rule. They come in, they have to wear a uniform, they have to bow, they have to basically like uphold all those rules of the gym. Okay, the requirement basically, if they come in and they don't have a sparring gear, they can't spar. In the imitation kickboxing is basically is that there's no sparring. So for them to kind of build the safety of their trust first, and then if they like, then they can move it over to a martial arts. So we have kind of like a soft version of the martial art, and then we have like a little bit like the martial art that have sparring and all that. And the things that we tell everybody is like this. And I tell everybody, I said, we have a class. If you come in and if you want to watch your kid, that's great. But if you want to have a workout, while your kid taking class over here, we have a class over there, you can do that. So we have some parent does that. Some parent, they like to watch their kids, so by that way they learn what we teach, so by that way they can apply at home with their kids. So it's like, so we have 50-50. But I have a lot of parent that actually like train, and their kid train here too.
So, what are some of the benefits that families experience when they train together?
So, for example, we do the biggest thing that um, I do over here is I do what we do is acknowledge the parents. So, for example, if the kid train with the parent, at the end of class, we do what we call is that if your parent come and support you, you support your parent. So, how we do by support is we hug each other and we say thank you, we kiss each other. If the parents sit and watch their kid, I say the same thing. End of the class, I always count like about 20 count, and I want them to come over. Basically, tell the parent that thank you for supporting me, thank you for being here, and thank you for and they'll give each other a hug and a kiss. Because for me, I feel like I don't have that. And when I marry, my wife is different culture, and I love hug. I love like acknowledge that. Asian culture, we don't even hug. I mean, now we start to have a little bit, but back then it's like you don't need me to tell you that I love you. You should know it. So it's like, as a kid, I grew up and never got a hug. I never got kissed. So it's like it's different. So I teach the martial art based on relationship, love, support, communications, and understanding.
So it's a bridge for bonding between parents and children.
Yes, and I think a lot of time as a parent is that you want something for your child. Okay, most of parents when they bring in, they say this. They always say, "Well, I want my kid to learn a sport." And to me, I almost feel like most kids come to martial art is almost like a reject of all the other sport. Almost like that. They can't do any other sport, then they come to martial art. But reality, they come to martial art is that most parents they just like for me, I have 3 kids. I just want my kid to better listens, better focus in school, better support when you ask them to do something at home, and then they realize that all of that it come with leadership, life skill, and I teach that to the kid. I empower them because end of the day, as a parent myself, I don't want my kid to turn out to be, kid to be a punk or not good in school, you know. And I want my job as a parent when they the parent bring them over here is they ask me to give them another support for them to empower their kid to better listen at home, so by that way as a parent they coming home they're more relaxing, you know they be able to enjoy their time with their kid instead of go home fight with their kid all the time, you know.
What prompted you to write your book?
The reason I want to write a book because I actually, when I dealing my first time when I came to United States, when I learned English, I remember when I was reading a sentence and I hear my sister and my teacher say this to me: "No, no, no, you're reading wrong." And all I hear in my mind was she said to me was, "You're wrong." So because of that, seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, I never raised my hand up to read at all. And then when I went to college, I realized, oh my God, I need to read, And then when I went to college, I'm like, spent so much time on that. And then a couple of years ago, before my dad like passed away, he was like, he wrote 7 books. So I said to him, I said, I want to write a book. And then my life turned around, and then I just want to do something for my kids. So God forbid if something happened to me, at least my kid can see what my legacy is, so by that way they can see who their dad is. And when I wrote that book, it took me 6 months. Total was like 8 months together for me to release that book. And when I released that book, it was like number one bestseller within like 2 days. I was like, oh my God, it was like for me, I was speechless because I'm like, it took me so long to second doubt myself. And I'm like, I don't know, I should release this book. And then, my wife was like, you need to release this book. And so now here we are. So,
So it's about overcoming your own limitations as well as leaving a legacy for your own kids and everybody else that might be able to learn from your life experience.
yes. And I think, like, I think if all of us, each one of us, like write a book and we all share, we can learn so much about each other. And by that way, there's no violence out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have valuable life experience that can only be valuable to others who are willing to share it.
Yes, sir.
So what's the if you had to pick the one single most important idea from the book, what is that?
The biggest thing that I tell my student and I tell myself, my kid, all the time on here is that I have this thing is that bow to choose in or choose out. And each day, every single day, we wake up in the morning, we have to choose to bow in or bow out. And what I mean is that when you wake up in the morning, you can choose to have bow in to have a great attitude for the day, or you can bow in to have bad attitude for the day. It's the choice that you have to make, and the decision you have to live. And how would you want to be better is based on what you're choosing in. And it's not about right or wrong. It's about choosing in to have a great attitude, choosing in to have grateful, choosing in to have blissful life, choosing in to love one another. And sometimes thing doesn't go as planned. For example, let's say I'm choosing to let someone to if I was driving and I choose to let somebody coming in, and when I choose to let somebody coming in, they could go slow or they could go fast because it's their choice. But if I let them go in, I have to make sure that if they go slow, it's their choice. I can't get upset, you know. But if I don't let them go in, then that could be, my choice too, But at the same time, I have to understand whatever I choose in, I have to accept it. It doesn't matter about right or wrong, but understand that when you choose in, you have to be able to commit it. And that's why, for me, when I wrote this book, my hope is that for people to read the book, and then maybe they can learn something, and then they maybe can trigger them, because it's the same story. I bet, my life story related to other people's story. And I'm hoping that if they read it, maybe they guys, hey, this thing just woke me up you know so that's what I'm hoping. And like I said, I love the life that I choose. That's why, for me, the word bow, you know, in a martial art, we do it all the time. We bow to acknowledge to a partner. We bow to acknowledge, the student. Bow to acknowledge that you're ready to train. Bow. So it's like how you choose to live.
So it sounds like it's about choosing to fully show up and fully participate in your life instead of being in an attitude of resistance or kind of being dragged along a sort of victim mentality.
Yes. It's like, for example, it's like in any relationship. For example, my own relationship, or my wife, my kid, right? I can only choose for me what my attitude is. However, I can, based on my attitude, I can empower the other person how they feel and how they react to it. And that's what relationship. And I think, like, committed commitments is the most time that I think people just give up. In any relationship, it's about learning. That's it. And I think the biggest thing that for me I learned is to surrender. Okay, what I mean is that to, you know my feeling, my commitment, commitment to my wife, my kid. Because sometimes, for example, in a relationship with my kid, for example, when she's watching TV, for me to ask her to do things, I have to know where she stands, and then I have to communicate with her, and I have to compromise with her to see what her commitment to me is and my commitment to her. So it's like, and I think it's very important in any relationship. We have to have that, you know.
So, where, speaking of relationships, where is the best place for people to connect with you?
They can go on. It's the website is steponthemat.com, or they can go in extremeninja.com. It's a XTREMENINJA.com, and they can
So,
connect there.
yeah, that's if you could actually put those links in the comments for this video, that would be great for your book and for your gym. And I have to know, how did you come up with the name Ninja? Did your parents actually name you that, or did you?
No.
Okay,
It-
okay.
so
Was it
so
a
for
nickname?
example, it's back then when I was working security at the nightclub. And when you kick people out, they can't really know your name. Because when they know your name, when you kick them out, end of the day, it's hard to talk with them. So what happened was, back then we have the situation at the nightclub. I was working over there, and then one of my good friend, he was basically head security over there. And then I was run over there. They have a fight, and then 2 seconds I was over there, and he said, "You're a ninja." And then that was then, and then that it become alive to now. So my
So
name, my name now is actually Ninja.
it was a professional nickname that grew into an
Yeah.
actual name.
Yeah. So it's, for me, it was more like the word ninja is actually patient persons. I'm very patient, so that's why I took that name.
Yeah, I use that when I am teaching kids. I teach them the ninja skill of be still, the ninja skill of be silent. Very important skills to learn.
Yeah.
Patience. Awesome. Well, I want to express my appreciation to you for coming on the show and talking with me, and for all the great work you do, for sharing your story with the world. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. So this has been great for me. Uh, and the if you'll put the links for your websites in the comments, for those who want to connect with you, that would be great. And
Thank you very much.
this has been awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate you.
Awesome. Keep up the good work, and I'll look forward to seeing you around.
Yes, sir. I would definitely. I was thinking about going to California this next year, so I'll definitely swing by you. Where are you in San Diego?
Yes.
Oh, my sister lived right there, so
San
she would be
Diego's San Diego is a great place. You should definitely
yes,
visit.
definitely. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you again.
All right. You're welcome. Good night, brother.
Good night. Thank you.